Pole Shift News. It's been nearly 2 weeks, hasn't it, guys? Doesn't time fly? As usual, before we begin, I'd like to thank those couple of people that have recently donated to the channel, and I'd like to encourage more people to do so. We've got getting on now 8,200 people subscribe to the channel, and we average around about 60,000 views per month. But when you think about how many people actually make a contribution to the research, the website, and this ongoing work, the numbers are very, very small. And although we're getting 60,000 views a month, in comparison to the amount of people that are on this planet, again, the numbers are very, very small. And these are things that could be improved. So what I wanted to briefly talk about then today, in relation to the topic, Pole Shift News, is the strong and weak magnetic field lines and where we are in relation to this pole shift with regards to the field lines right now. Around the poles of the north and south, you can see that the lines are closer together. These regions are known as the strong magnetic field lines, and where they start to spread out in their rings are known as the weak field lines. And one thing you'll note, if you remember the experiment I did with the magnet by the compass, that when it gets to around about 40 degrees, it starts to balance between the strong field lines and the weak field lines. Once it enters the weak field lines, the compass needle, if you remember, just quickly flipped over to the south at around about 40 degrees. And what I believe is taking place right now on this Earth is we are at that point where we're reaching that region in between the strong and the weak field lines. And the reason why I believe that we're there is because for the last 100 years the pole has been migrating towards the direction of Siberia on a single vector, a straight course. And that was up until 2014, where it began to deviate southeasterly. So I think for that reason something brand new has started to happen within the last few years with regards to this magnetic pole shift. Now, since the 1950s, we've been monitoring also the magnetosphere and the strength of it, and it's around 20% less than what it used to be since we started monitoring that, so 66 years. It has dropped 20%. Not only this, is as the pole has been migrating over the northern hemisphere, if we just concentrate on the North Pole, what we find is that as it's in the strong field lines, the pole has only been able to migrate relatively slowly. Now, if we look at the pins on the Google Earth map, what we'll see, and I'll show them in a minute, is the gaps getting smaller as time moves on. And that's an indication that things are picking up speed. It's also an indication that we are getting closer to those weak field lines. Now remember, when we enter those weak field lines, we can expect a pole reversal to take place much quicker. But there's been also a few other events that's been happening, as well as the pole shift migrating. We've noticed changes in the climate, we've noticed increases in the earthquake activity, as well as magnitude of earthquakes, not just the frequency, but we've also noticed an increase in volcanic eruptions. There's been other anomalies that have been noted, and not so common are the ones which I did, briefly talked about in a few videos with regards to the islands in Japan and Pakistan, with islands just literally pushing themselves up at the ocean floor. Sorry, at the sea level, rising above it. In some cases, some of these islands are over a mile long. So, when you think about it, are we looking at early signs of crustal displacement? I think it's very difficult. It could be, and especially if you think about the other increasing in frequency anomaly that's taking place with regards to sinkholes, it could quite possibly be. It seems to fit. Crustal displacement would be related to possibly a core of the Earth increase in temperature, and with that increase you could expect more volcanoes, and you could also expect the crustal tectonic plates to become more viscal in that they start to move. We haven't noted any significant movement other than very, very small movement, which, if you mapped it down and done a bit of processing, it would seem almost normal that these continents do move gradually, slowly. So at the moment, things are moving relatively slowly, and that's because we're in the strong field lines. Those field lines are much tightly packed. Things can't escape them so easily. But as the poles begin to weaken and the pole begins to migrate further southwest now, what I believe will happen is we'll enter the weak field lines. And if these geological events have been moving in time with the migrating pole, then we can expect something to increase with these also. That's what I believe will take place. And I believe that this could lead to, quite possibly, a cataclysmic event. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's a bit strong. Well, it's not. Cataclysmic events are already taking place on this planet. It's just on what scale of a cataclysmic event. If you're expecting, crustal displacement to take place tomorrow, it's unlikely it's going to happen. Whether crustal displacement happens during the pole migrating in the weak field lines, that's another case. I've always said, we have Arctic regions over the magnetic poles, and we're also in the same region of where the rotational axis is. Could the magnetism of this Earth, the magnetic poles, be the most fundamental mechanics which holds everything in place? And I'm tending to think, yes, this is the most important thing. The other thing is, we take for granted that this is another magnetic reversal. It really surprises me, that some people just think that this is going to be, nothing more than when they look at their compass during this reversal, it will just point south instead of north. There's so much taking place right now whilst it's in those strong field lines that is noticeable. And when they do get into the weak field lines, I think it's going to be impossible not to notice these effects. But why is it then different to any other magnetic reversal that's happened before? Well, quite simply, the elephant in the room with this magnetic reversal is the fact that there has been a delay of 350,000 years, and that's why we cannot compare this to any other magnetic reversal that has taken place before. On average, magnetic reversals happened around every 350,000 years. This time it has taken 780,000 years. We are in a magnetic reversal today. It is widely accepted in the scientific community that we are experiencing a magnetic reversal. Most of you know this in any case. You was first suspicious about when people started to change the numbers assigned to runways with regards to the headings. This was because the pole had migrated significantly, and aircraft on their approach to those runways were no longer in line with the compass headings, so they had to change. So there's no doubt we're in this magnetic reversal, and there's no doubt that the last one was 780,000 years ago, and there is no doubt that this magnetic reversal is different because it is overdue by nearly double. And what's so significant about this? What's so significant about this is that we don't know whether this Earth will go through even its next magnetic reversal completely, because it has taken another 350,000 years on or above its average, and that is alarming. I bet you there are many scientists that sit and think about this, especially when they have the information relating to what took place on Mars with regards to this. Because Mars, not many people know, had a magnetic pole, had an atmosphere, had liquid on its planet, and it no longer has a magnetic field. It no longer has, it no longer has the magnetic poles. It no longer has the water on its surface, and it certainly does not have an atmosphere. That could be the fate of Earth in the future if this magnetic reversal does not complete. And there is a chance it might not do, because we know that they can stop these cycles of reversals. Mars is evident of that, and we know that for some reason this one is taking a lot longer than what it should do. And it's for that reason, guys, that I say you cannot compare this reversal with any other reversal that we've had in the history of studying, magnetic reversals. And that's why this is so important during this time. Really, this should be on the news, and the topic should be receiving a lot more information, attention, and people should, mostly know that we are going through this. But it seems as though we are more concerned with celebrities these days breaking up than, the birth pains of our planet going through severe changes. And that's quite sad. And that's what we do on this channel. We try to get people to switch on, become aware of this problem, because it's not just the case, like I say, of a magnetic compass needle pointing to the south. This is already having massive effects on anomalies relating to this planet across the range: climate, earthquakes, volcanism, sinkholes, you name it. It will all find its way back to the migrating poles and the core of this Earth. And as other people that have studied the magnetic North Poles have said, something is definitely taking place beneath our feet. And that is, guys, why I've gone to the Lemsave on this channel and covered it for so many years. I've designed equipment. The equipment has been built. It's been programmed. It's nearly finished. And soon, it won't be long now, soon we'll be looking at live data that we've recorded. It'll be processed. We'll be able to see the deviations in the magnetic North Pole and its heading. We'll be able to measure the magnetosphere strength so that we can see when it gets even weaker and weaker and the pole begins to move faster and faster. We will know, with those two things changing so quick, that we are in those weak field lines for sure. And people can benefit from this information. So, as usual, guys, I'm going to put the link down there. Now, if we can encourage more than 2 people to make a contribution to the channel off this video, as a sort of a bonus, this weekend I'll put a video up there which I guarantee you'll like. It's a little bit off the topic of pole shift, right? It's to do with science, and I guarantee you'll like it. Now, I'll do that if we can get, before then, more than a couple of people to make a contribution to the channel. And, let's see how it goes, shall we? And I'll see you over the weekend, or speak to you over the weekend. Okay, guys, you take care, enjoy your weekend, and as always, I'll say what I usually do. Bye for now.